I did a brief video recently about how much I love episodic campaigns in Dungeons & Dragons and how they can help with scheduling issues. One Lee asked me a really great question in the comments section of that video, where they said they would love to see another video about what to do if you can't reach a satisfying conclusion to the episodic adventure before the end of your game session. Maybe it's an obvious answer, but what do you do to avoid having to end a session before the adventure is concluded? One thing I want you to know that I have thought about this question every single day since you have asked it, and I have devised a flowchart that I think can answer your question, which also probably gives away that I don't think it's obvious, considering I had to make a whole ass flowchart. The first question I think we should be asking, is the ending in doubt for this adventure? Sometimes you will not quite get to the end of an adventure, but it'll still be clear that the party is going to be victorious. In these cases, it can be worth it to step away from the mechanics of the game and step a little more into the narrative. Consider how your players would solve the remaining obstacles, and with your players' consent, you can quickly describe how each of their characters would use their abilities to solve the remaining problems and finish the adventure without actually finishing it. You know eventually your rogue will pick that lock, and even if there's a combat left, if you can trust your players, and your players are good at this, you can even do a quick fake combat where you ask them each quickly what they would focus on doing after seeing whatever the enemy is. Have the players mark down some resources if appropriate, and describe how each of these things contribute to the ultimate victory. Now, this is not something you want to do often. The reason many people play the game is to play the game, and this is something much closer to a shared storytelling exercise than really playing the game, but it can still let you deliver the reveal of the episode while also staying on schedule. Perhaps the ending is still in doubt though, or your table doesn't like this type of technique. The next question I would ask you is, can the players retreat? The 5e rest mechanics, where you get everything back on a long rest, means my players love to try to retreat mid-dungeon, get a long rest, retrace their steps, and get back into it. This is not something they can always pull off, but when we get close to the end of a session and with scheduling issues potentially facing us down, I am far more likely to allow it. Letting them retreat to camp means you have an opportunity for some characters to stay at camp, head back to headquarters to investigate a clue, reach out to a contact, whatever, and new characters to join the party to finish the dungeon. This works especially well if they are part of an organization where the leadership might be issuing new orders even while they're still on a mission. I tend to give my players at least one standing stone in the party, which reaches out to a lieutenant of the boss to help explain away some of these mechanics. Now, you will be able to finish the adventure with a slightly different group of players who are still connected to the main campaign. Sometimes retreat is impossible, which leads us to our next question. Are you and your players okay with breaking continuity? Again, this will depend on your table and how you view the game and the world. But at my table, especially when we were getting started, we were sometimes okay with breaking continuity in order to keep the adventure going. Of course, the cleric was always here. Why would they not be? What rogue? We never had a rogue on this mission type of things where in between the adventures you basically reset what you need to make it make sense. As a DM, you can even kind of keep the missing player characters nearby in case you need or want to save things from a TPK. If you and your players are okay with retconning and setting the narrative in that way, you can resume an adventure even with a different set of players. But again, some players or DMs might not like breaking reality this casually. If you or your players are not okay with that type of shenanigans, there's still a couple options. Put a pin in that episode until you can get the group together again, and ask yourself, are your players okay with creating new characters? If they are, one of my favorite things to do is to have them roll up new characters lower level than they currently are, and have them play as recruits to the organization on their first mission. They're still connected to the same organization. You still get to reveal features of the world to the players. This adds new NPCs to your organization and potentially gives you allies or adversaries to play with as the campaign goes on. Sure, you're basically running a one-shot instead of advancing your main story, but because you're keeping it so connected and close, you're sort of advancing without advancing. However, if you or your players are not okay with this, then yeah, I'm sort of out of options. If none of these feel like a reasonable way to handle your story, then I think you're probably going to need to run a one shot or two until you're able to resolve those scheduling issues. Hopefully that helps answer your question, Wenli. I'll link the flowchart in the description, and I hope this helps some of you who might have had problems with episodic campaigns in the past.